Hi, everybody. It's Andrea from the Stigma-Free Society, the president and co-founder, and I'm so happy to have you here today as part of our Rural Mental Wellness Toolkit. And we have started doing live events, sharing information about people who are working in mental health and agricultural and rural communities. We're just so excited to have Alanna here today from the Farmers Toolbox. How are you doing today, Alanna?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is so great.
Nice. We're really happy to have you as you become a recent partner in our new toolkit. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But today I really want to focus on you and your passions, why you got into this field, and also your organization, the Farmers Toolbox, and to learn about what you do. So I'm very excited, and I'm sure our viewers are as well, to learn more about that. So I thought I could just start off with a bio and share a little bit about you so people have some context about who you are, what you do, and I would just love to share. So I'll do that first. And is it Conybeare is your last name?
Conybeare.
Conybeare. I'm usually good with that just by guessing, but sometimes it's hard. Okay.
It's a unique one.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love it. So Alanna Conybeare is the vice president of Conley Farms Incorporated, a dairy, poultry, and cash crop farm in Ontario. She's also the admin behind the website, The Farmers Toolbox, an online resource that helps farmers, farm workers, and any rural resident in Ontario to find mental health resources available to them. This project started in 2018 when the Listowel Agricultural Society received a grant from RBC. And with that money, they launched a larger fundraiser called Dinner on Tremaine, the website that hosts videos of farmers discussing mental health, a comprehensive list of mental health resources, which is so important, and other helpful farm resources and upcoming mental health events, has had nearly 5,000 page views. So Today when we speak with Alanna, we're going to talk about her initiative, and I'm so excited. Thanks for all you do. Yeah. That's an amazing bio. So great. So I'd love you to...
Thank you.
No problem. So I'd love if you could start to tell us a little about the Farmers Toolbox and how you got it going. What's the genesis? What ignited this passion for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it really started with the Listowel Agricultural Society. So they were the ones that received the initial grant from the Royal Bank of Canada. And it was in the context of our ambassador program. So the grant was to support our ambassador and have that committee do something for the community. So kind of like a larger event. And around the time, so this was 2018, conversations around mental health were really picking up momentum in the farming community, especially in our local area as well. So the first thought was we took it back to the board, like the Egg Society board, and said, would you guys be in favor of doing like a mental health event? So a fundraiser and a speaker, so we can raise money for local mental health initiatives. And the board was amazingly supportive. They're like, yes, go for it, whatever you guys need. So we had, right from the beginning, we had the support of the board behind us to kind of go on and do the initiatives that we would like to do. So I was able to become involved because of my volunteer work with the Egg Society and with the Ambassador Committee. Nice. And then from there, the whole community was incredibly supportive. We had companies and local businesses come to us and say, what do you need? Can we donate? How can we support this initiative? So the community was so overwhelmingly in favor for what we were doing, which really kind of, I think helped propelled us forward into doing a larger project, because we saw the need for it. We saw that we obviously had the support of the people around us. And there were so many people that were asking, okay, yes, we're more comfortable with these conversations, but now what? What are our next steps as a community? And we saw that there was, that it was lacking, right, to help facilitate this conversation, and instead of just from talking for mental health, how do we transition that conversation into either increased access, increased help, and how do we better direct people to resources that do exist? And so out of those conversations and out of the incredibly successful fundraiser, that's we got the idea to do videos with farmers talking about their mental health journey, as well as creating a website to help guide people to some resources that already exist. We also have a bursary, so with local graduates from the high school, if they're involved with mental wellness, they get a bursary. So we have that for 3 years. We do mental health first aid training, as well as donations to first responders that are volunteers locally, so that they can get the mental health first aid training as well.
That is really extensive and impressive. Good on you guys.
The committee's been the mental health committee and the agriculture society have been so supportive of what we're doing. So we come back with an idea, they're always like, yep, go for it. So it's been really great.
And it's nice that these conversations are opening up in farming, ag, rural communities, because I was curious what you feel like, what kind of mental health challenges do farmers face? Is it unique challenges? How is it different from their urban counterparts? And I was wondering if you could speak to that topic a little bit.
Yeah, there's everyone has mental health challenges, right? And it's not like we're unique in the fact that we do suffer from mental health stresses and issues. But I think there are some factors that make it a bit more difficult for this population to access some resources. First can be geographic boundaries. So we have people that might be hours away from the mental health resources that they need. Their local hospital, their local outpatient center might have some resources, but they might not be specialized to what an individual needs. And even if they are close, you still have the issues of scheduling, the difficulties of getting there. I know for me personally, sometimes you might want to make an appointment, or you might want to access a certain service, but it's really difficult for me or many farmers I know to book anything into the future. We don't know what the weather's going to be like in 3 weeks. So when you call and say, okay, yeah, we have an opening in 2-3 weeks time, you're like, well, if it's sunny, I'm not going to be there. So that's a challenge as well, right? So you have this erratic schedule, you can have traffic boundaries, you can have difficulties or resources available in your area. And to compound that, even if all of those stuff do align, a lot of farmers, if they work on their own, even if you're trying to access that help, you don't necessarily have people in your workplace that can support you like you would maybe if you're going to a different type of work environment. Your work can be fairly isolating and stressful. And sometimes when the only people that you see are maybe your family or the people the couple people that you interact with at work, it can be a challenging environment, especially during high stress times. And those high stress times are sometimes when you need to access help the most, and it's just not practical.
Right. Have you seen in providing mental health resources? I always hear about with our new rural and ag toolkit, basically, I call it, like it's so, focused on ag and rural and remote as well. Men face unique challenges, don't they? Because I feel perhaps, they are expected to be that strong, stiff upper lip, get through it and work. Like, do you find that as well?
Yeah, there's this, whether it's like self-imposed or society imposed, there's certainly this like mentality of like, just push through it, right? Like you don't need any outside help. If you're strong enough that you'll be able to work through whatever challenges that you have. And for a lot of work on the farm, that philosophy works and has served us well as a group, right? Like when you're so tired and you still have work to do, the mentality to keep pushing sometimes helps us because you can get the work done. But then there's other types of challenges, especially when it comes to mental health, that mentality of having that stiff upper lip or not needing to ask for help or seeing that as a sign of weakness really is counterintuitive, because then it makes everything else that much difficult because we can't really deal with the central issue of what we're having, right? Because then we've pushed that off to the side. And we're like, oh, we'll just work through it. It'll pass. The harder I work, the better it will get. But in a lot of times that is not the case, especially when we're dealing with mental health stuff.
Yeah, and speaking of those unique challenges, like for the resources specifically tailored to farmers, supporting their unique needs, I was wondering, like for the Toolbox, how does it provide that? Because I know you talked of inspiring stories. We have similar stories as well on our new toolkit. And like when it's tailored for farmers, how does that impact them?
I think part of it is it resonates deeper. Like, especially if there's a resource that is put forward and it's like, we understand those challenges that you're going through. It takes away one of those barriers, because sometimes the barrier can be, well, I'm going to, they don't understand the situation that I'm coming from. So why would I bother reaching out to that resource when they aren't going to know my unique experiences or the extra pressures that I have to go through? When you have those services, you're saying, we understand where you're coming from. We get that your schedule can be absolutely horrendous some days. And so many variables are out of your control. You're already coming to the mental health discussion with a common ground. And I think that can really help to alleviate some of the barriers of feeling, unseen and kind of misunderstood. It can take that away. And that's what I also like part of the rural mental wellness and having those peer support groups. I think that's so important because it recognizes, it takes into account the sometimes the difficulties in getting to maybe like a more traditional mental health resource. And then it's also recognizing that sometimes that peer support can resonate a bit deeper, and recognizing that we can help each other through it because we're all coming through this shared experience. And so I really like that idea about that, and like using the community to support itself, because sometimes that can be where the strongest bonds already are. So really utilizing that to support each other. I love that.
Thank you. I was wondering too, like the impact, what has the feedback been on the initiatives that you've been spearheading? And has there been a lot of people saying, hey, this is really useful? Like, can you tell me a little bit about the reaction?
Yeah, I mean, the conversations that I've even had since the website has started, because you're putting yourself out there as, and anyone in the video as well. I've talked to people who have kind of starred in our farmer videos. Yeah. The reception that they've got, because you come out publicly and saying, hey, I'm someone that you can talk to this about. This is a conversation that we all need to have. And I'm someone who, we're already on the same page. So the amount of people, the phone calls, the text messages, the messages online from people being like, I thought I was the only one, right? And that's such a message that's really resonating with so many people, is that because we internalize those struggles, right? Especially when you're farming, you go and you see other farmers and they're getting stuff done, they're getting crops in, and you're like, man, I must be the only one struggling here because I can't seem to get this stuff done. But then when you realize, like, oh wait, we all have these same struggles, but none of us are talking about it. Even just opening that door to realize, like, no, this can be hard for any one of us. So having people reach out directly has been really, really shown the impact, I think, of what the videos and the website does. But even I think the numbers of, the number of views of the videos online and people visiting the website, it's in the thousands. So obviously we must be resonating somewhat for people to either keep coming back to the website to check those resources. And obviously word of mouth is spreading that resource exists for people to keep visiting it. So I think that in it of itself shows that there's obviously a need in our community. And sometimes, like, I would say that our website is fantastic and I'm so proud of it, but it's not the end, right? Like, I think it's just an important first step. But I think there's a lot of things that we still need to do and still can do. There's places where the resources available to our rural residents, whether it's farmers, farm workers, migrant workers, their families, there's still resources that maybe don't quite cover all of their needs yet. So I think this is a great first step in saying, hey, these are the resources that are there. But I still would like to see us push farther and to make sure these resources are more inclusive and more accessible. So it's a great first step, and I think people are responding to it very well, but we'll keep going.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. And in partnership with Stigma-Free Society, I'm so happy that we've been able to collaborate further and on our rule toolkit and your toolbox. I think it's such a nice fit there, and the inspirational stories, and we're kind of could exchange things and help lift each other up. So this question just kind of came to mind for people, you know, who don't know what a day is like on the farm, and what are some of the challenges that farmers face? Like, I know we talked about the stiff upper lip and the working really hard, but is there anything else like that's just standing out for you when we're looking at farmers' mental health or the way that they're perceiving themselves?
Yeah, I think, like you touched upon so many great things there. I think the other part of it can be the stress of the job too.
Mm-hmm.
I know, like, so for instance, like this morning we had a pretty busy morning on the farm, not unlike, you know, many other mornings that farmers would had, but you know, we have robots milking the cows. So I had issues with the robot. So I was trying to attend to that.
Yeah.
I had heifer calving. There was a difficult calving. So I was trying to assist, you know, this first time animal that's calving while I'm trying to fix the robot, and you're still trying to get all of the other chores that are done, need to be done. And nothing cares about your time.
Yeah.
Right. So everything needs your attention at potentially at the exact same time. Simultaneously here in Ontario, we're trying to get crops in the ground and things planted. And it's not, you know, so say if you had a morning like that and you're trying to get through the morning, it's not like, oh, well, thank goodness those 3 jobs are done. Now I'm fine. It's like, well, no, that stuff that you didn't get from the morning all has to be done now. And like your jobs can be cumulative. So our work isn't, I think it shows how resilient that you need to be, but the work can also be relentless. Because it's not like, oh, you've worked a 15-hour day. Don't worry, you can take the day off tomorrow. It's like, no, tomorrow might even be worse, right? Tomorrow might even be longer. And the day after that, right? So it's that relentlessness of it, I think, can be overlooked by some people who are outside of the industry, because that, I think, is quite unique to this job, because it's not like you have a coworker where, okay, you know, I had a really busy couple of days, but I have Wednesday off, or someone can cover me tomorrow. It's like, no, you're the person that covers you. Like there is no other person.
And then that burnout factor, like as you're talking about this in these 15-hour days and, you know, mental health and burnout, like that's a huge issue for farmers, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that that's something, like, especially like as a young farmer myself, like I thought even like the first, you know, couple years being home, I was like, man, like I have to do this for 50 more years. Like I was like, that's a lot of years. Right. And it's, you know, I have to improve the tools that I have if I'm going to do this for 5 more decades.
Yeah.
And it's tools that I didn't have before. I like, even in university, the busyness in my schedule was still broken up by, okay, well, midterms are done, exams are done. Now I get to take a break. But with farming, it doesn't, those natural breaks don't exist. So we really have to develop the tools internally to deal with that, because the industry is not going to change, right? Like the busyness of planting season, and even in winter, I thought, I was like, oh, winter will be quiet. No, it's just different job, right? Like, so there's always stuff that's going to kind of push us and test us. So it's really about how do we make sure that this population can get the resources that they need, but also how do we equip them with the tools that we know that they're going to need, but aren't necessarily part of the conversation yet. And increasing that like farmer resiliency to those stressful times, I think is so important, because like burnout is real. You hit it. Yeah. That was like the perfect conclusion to that, right? Like it's a real thing, and it can have really lasting impacts on people. And how do we equip them to deal with those times? Because they'll always be there.
Yeah, I know. And I've often heard this metaphor about the tractor. And if the light goes out, then you know that has to be fixed. And if there's a problem with the motor, then that needs to be fixed. And so, you know, keeping up equipment, you got to do that for yourself. Like keep filling yourself up, right? And ensuring that you're well. And so, yeah, I was curious, like we're talking about tools and applying techniques and things we can do to stay well. So tell me a little bit about the Farmers Toolbox website. What exactly are the components? Why should they go there?
Yeah, so the one thing the Toolbox kind of includes a couple different types of resources. So the one resource on the homepage are the farmer videos. So there are other farmers talking about their mental health journeys or what mental health means to them. And I think part of that is kind of it's a nice introduction, especially to people who might not realize that the mental health conversations are important to them. Where it's just like, oh, like I'm fine, like I can manage it. But hearing your peers talk about the stress and the stuff that they went through, sometimes it makes people more comfortable in having that conversation. And people that, especially in our community, because it was local, it was people you recognized. It was people that you knew that were from your community saying, this was something a conversation we might not have had, but these are conversations I'm willing to have with you. So I think that is an important tool just for people to see themselves reflected in others talking about it.
Yeah.
The other one is a list of mental health resources that are available to farmers. So some of them can be, I tried to include both free services, but also services that were paid for to try to fill in the gaps, because not all free services covered everything that people needed. But so the free services are things sometimes offered by the government of Ontario. There is some local programs, some local therapy. There's therapy sessions that are paid for by local businesses for business owners to help manage the stress of being an entrepreneur. So things like that are a great resource. Paid resources by the government of Ontario. Free resources from the government of Ontario. But there's also a list of different types of therapies that you can have. Sometimes the barrier to entry of people going to a doctor's office and making that appointment can be the issue. So this is a list of other ways that you can seek mental health assistance without having to go through that more kind of traditional route. And then there's a plethora of online kind of information, but as well as different trainings that people can take. So I try to kind of include like a wide breadth of types of resources. There's mental health first aid training. There's also workplace training. So if you're an employer or an employee, what are different types of training you can take to bring mental wellness and conversations about mental health into the workplace as well. So there's that part too that's very mental health specifically focused. And my hope is that whatever service you're looking for, it'll be on there.
Yeah.
There's things specific right to our local county level, province, and nationwide. So even if you're someone from outside of Ontario, you still should be able to find a resource that is able to support you. And so the mental health list is very comprehensive. And there's things that are different types of apps. So say if you're interested in doing kind of the app route, there's apps that you can get about mood monitoring or meditation apps that are also can help with people mental wellness.
Yeah.
And the third kind of aspect we have is a relatively new part, and it's called other farm services. So there are things that are maybe not specific to mental health, but there are other services that are designed to help kind of alleviate some of the stress for farmers. So there's free services about succession planning, about farm debt management. And so those things that can be a really big stressor for farmers and kind of have implications on the mental health side. But it's a new page that we started called Farm Services to try to alleviate some stress for some of the other jobs that you have to deal with.
Well, in alleviating stress, you're helping someone's mental health. So it's all connected. Yeah. So what's the upcoming initiatives? What's the plan? Where are you going? What's your future for you personally? And also, your toolbox.
Yeah. So we have a couple things kind of in the works for the future. So we're in the midst of doing a local mail out. Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest barriers of having something online is that it's online. So there are so many people in our community that don't have reliable rural internet. And in some communities that make the choice not to have internet in their homes. So those communities shouldn't be excluded from this conversation, and they shouldn't have extra barriers to resources. So again, thanks to so much funding that we've got from local businesses, and for the mail out, the Stratford Community Fund was a really significant contributor. We were able to do a mail out of important phone numbers for farmers. So again, we didn't want to put a website on a mail out because that kind of misses the mark. But the idea is like, these are phone numbers that you can call, and you can be connected with a person that should be able to, if they're not able to help you that service specifically, they're connected in a network that will be able to make sure you'll be connected to the most appropriate resource. So that mail out is in the works, and we're going to kind of do numerous rounds of that mail out. So the first one is like a relatively small geographic area, and we're hoping to keep branching out into a bigger and bigger area to connect people to some local resources. Once our mail out's finished, we're still in the works of kind of our strategic plan for after that. But I think for me personally, it's we've gotten so much amazing support from the Listowel Egg Society that I'm not sure what necessarily direction they'll go after our mail out and after we keep doing the trainings and stuff like that. It's definitely made me excited about being able to keep talking about rural mental initiatives, especially in our community. So yeah, that's kind of our plan for the next little while. And after that, who knows where we'll go.
Well, it's positive. I think it's going to go forward in a big way. And yeah, we're there for you every step of the way. And we really believe in what you're doing. And so I was curious, one last thing, from one farmer to another farmer out there, what are some inspirational words or a mantra or perhaps something you would like to communicate with them about mental health?
I think the biggest takeaway is that whatever you're feeling, someone's felt it before. And it's sometimes we can feel like we really are the only ones that are struggling with what we're struggling with. But the fact is that I guarantee you that someone else is out there that's experienced it. And although that doesn't necessarily in and of itself solve the problem, the belief to know, or the kind of the comfort that we can take from that can mean that if they can work through it, hopefully we can work through it as well too.
And that we're not alone. And then we have each other in our communities, and we're there for each other. And it's important to reach out for help, even when we are feeling proud or strong. And, but really inside we feel broken. So it's really important that we support each other in our communities, in the rural communities, in the ag communities, and in any community. All right. Well, thank you very much, Alanna, for your time today. Stigma-Free Society will stay in touch with you. We're very honored to have you here, and thank you so much.
Yeah.
See you later. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Bye, Andrea.
All right. See you later.
Bye.